From basement to boardroom, I walked into the office after my 3-day regional meeting, feeling lighter than I had in months. The quarterly numbers were excellent. Our project deadlines had all been met, and I'd even managed to secure additional budget for team training. The moment I stepped off the elevator, something felt wrong. The usual Monday morning buzz was missing from our department floor. The East Wing corridor where my team of 7 top-tier engineers worked was eerily quiet. If you love stories about workplace justice and strategic revenge that will leave you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button and subscribe right now. Every day brings completely new stories, each one more gripping than the last. "Blake!" I called out, looking for our lead developer who was always first to arrive. No answer. Our workspace, the one we'd earned after delivering 3 consecutive breakthrough projects, stood empty. Desks cleared, monitors gone, even the coffee machine we'd bought with our own money was missing. Only rectangular dust outlines remained where our equipment had been. I spotted Harley from accounting walking past. "Hey, what happened to my team?" "Oh." His expression shifted to something resembling pity. "You should check the basement. They moved them yesterday." "The basement? We didn't even have office space in the basement." The elevator ride down felt eternal. Each floor passing by heightened my sense that someone was about to pay dearly for this decision. When the doors opened, I had to navigate through storage areas and maintenance rooms before finding a door with a hastily printed sign, Engineering Team B. I pushed it open to find my team huddled between exposed pipes and utility boxes. Their monitors balanced precariously on folding tables. Extension cords snaked across the concrete floor. Water dripped from a ceiling pipe, landing with rhythmic plunks into a bucket near Blake's makeshift desk. "What happened?" I asked, though their faces told me everything. Blake looked up, his jaw tight with controlled anger. "While you were gone, Parrish came down with movers. Said we needed to relocate immediately to make room for the new specialist. We had 30 minutes to pack everything." "A specialist? What specialist?" "Some productivity expert," added Quyen, our youngest developer. "Parrish says he's going to revolutionize the whole department." I climbed back upstairs to our former workspace. Bright, airy, strategically positioned between the testing lab and design team. Now it housed a single person, a young man arranging framed certificates on what used to be my desk, while Parrish, our department head of 5 months, hovered nearby with an expression of unbridled admiration. "Ah, there you are," Parrish exclaimed when he spotted me. "Meet Felix, our new productivity transformation specialist. His revolutionary approach increased output 300% at his last 3 companies. He needs proper space to implement his vision." He lowered his voice. "Your team can manage downstairs until next quarter's budget review." I stared at Felix, who didn't even pause arranging his awards to acknowledge me. I nodded silently and returned to the basement where my team waited, the distant hum of industrial machinery vibrating through the walls. The Wi-Fi signal barely reached. The nearest bathroom was a single toilet behind a shower curtain. The air smelled of mildew and neglect. 32 years with this company," muttered Reese, our hardware specialist. "And this is how they treat us." I surveyed their dejected faces. People who had given everything to this company, who had pulled countless all-nighters to meet impossible deadlines, now stuffed in a basement like unwanted furniture. Then I made my decision. "Pack your bags," I said calmly. "Not just for down here. Everything." They stared, confused but trusting. "I'm not asking you to quit today," I continued, my voice steady and confident. "But start quietly gathering everything you might want to take with you someday. Keep this conversation between us. My name is Cole Barrett, and until that basement moment, I'd been the dependable leader of Engineering Team B for 8 years. Before joining the company, I'd spent 15 years as a military logistics officer, coordinating supply chains in crisis zones across 3 continents. The company had hired me for my technical knowledge, unaware that I'd spent those years building global industry relationships while managing complex operations under extreme pressure. I wasn't just good at solving technical problems. I excelled at strategic warfare, corporate or otherwise. When I transitioned to civilian life, I brought those skills with me. I could spot talent in unlikely places and build cohesion among wildly different personalities. Each member of my team had been handpicked not just for their technical brilliance, but for their ability to execute under extreme pressure. Blake, our lead developer, had been rejected by 3 other companies because of his unfiltered communication style before I recognized his genius with complex systems. Quyen, fresh out of college but with natural talent for finding elegant solutions, had been passed over for higher-profile graduates. Reese had been ready to retire when I convinced him his hardware expertise was irreplaceable. Then there was Sawyer, our quietest member who spoke 5 programming languages but struggled with corporate politics. Avery, whose testing protocols had become industry standard, River, whose security systems were impenetrable, and Sage, who could translate technical requirements into language anyone could understand. For 8 years, we delivered consistently excellent results without fanfare. We weren't the flashiest team, but executives knew we were the ones to call when they needed something impossible done reliably. 6 months earlier, our longtime department head retired, and Parrish arrived with grand ambitions but zero understanding of our work. From day one, he'd been hunting for a game changer to impress executives, ignoring our consistent results in favor of flashy innovations. His golden hire, Felix, had dazzled him with buzzword-filled presentations and promises of revolutionary methods. What Parrish never investigated was why someone with such transformative skills changed jobs 3 times in 2 years. For 2 weeks after the basement relocation, we worked from our exile. The conditions were abysmal. The temperature fluctuated wildly. The lighting gave everyone headaches, and twice we had to cover equipment during overhead pipe leaks. Yet my team followed my quiet instructions: archive projects, organize knowledge bases, create transition guides, while continuing their assigned tasks without complaint. "I don't understand why we're documenting everything so meticulously," Sawyer whispered one afternoon. "It's not like they appreciate our work anyway." "Everything we do should be done with integrity," I replied loud enough for everyone to hear, no matter where we do it. The others exchanged glances but kept working. They trusted my judgment even if they didn't understand the strategy yet. Then came a surprising call from Sinclair, the CEO, requesting I present our team's accomplishments at the upcoming board meeting. My team's spirits lifted. Finally, recognition. The morning of the presentation, I dressed in my best suit and carefully reviewed my slides in the basement's dim light. As I climbed the stairs to the executive floor, Parrish intercepted me in the stairwell. "Change of plans," he smirked, blocking my path. "The board wants to hear about future innovations, not past performance. Felix will present instead." "Sinclair specifically requested me," I stated flatly. "I spoke with her this morning. She agrees my approach makes more sense." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "The board needs to hear about where we're going, not where we've been. You can go back to your workspace." I held his gaze for a long moment, memorizing his expression. Understood. But what Parrish didn't know was that this was exactly what I'd been waiting for. Keep watching to see how this strategic miscalculation would backfire spectacularly. My team deflated when I returned with the news. Quyen glanced at her half-written resignation letter visible on her screen. "So this is it? We're just giving up?" "Not even close," I replied, my voice carrying military precision. "Keep packing quietly." Later that day, word spread through the company grapevine that Felix's presentation had bombed spectacularly. Board members had asked technical questions he couldn't answer, exposing his shallow understanding of our core business. Parrish attempted damage control by promising our team would implement the concepts despite their reluctance to embrace change. That afternoon, Parrish visited our basement, suddenly friendly. "Good news. We're considering moving you back upstairs to the East Wing." The East Wing, slightly better than the basement, but still a clear demotion from our original space. The message was clear: we were still less valuable than the golden hire. "I appreciate you recognizing our capabilities," I said, surprising my confused team who expected outright rejection. Hope flickered again. That evening, Quyen admitted she'd torn up her resignation letter. "If we're moving back upstairs, maybe things will improve." I merely nodded, saying nothing to confirm or deny her optimism. The chess pieces were moving exactly where I needed them. 2 days later, I invited an old colleague to tour our facility. As we walked through departments, I deliberately timed our arrival at the executive floor for when I knew Parrish would be showing Felix around to potential clients. "Cole!" Parrish called out too loudly, too friendly. Perfect timing. "Come meet North Point Solutions' executive team. They're interested in Felix's productivity system." I approached with my visitor in tow. "This is my colleague, Rowan." Parrish eagerly introduced Rowan to Felix, who launched into his rehearsed transformation speech. "Fascinating approach," Rowan said when he finished. "You've used this successfully elsewhere?" "Absolutely. My methods boosted efficiency dramatically at my previous companies. Northwest Technologies saw a 300% productivity increase in just 1 quarter. "Strange," Rowan replied, his voice cool and measured. "I sit on the board of Northwest Technologies. We never recorded such improvements. In fact, we noted significant project delays during your tenure there." The conference room went silent. Felix's confident smile faltered. "There must be some confusion," Parrish began, his face flushing. "No confusion," I interjected. "Rowan is here because I accepted his job offer yesterday. I'm bringing my team to establish a new engineering division at his company. We start next Monday." The North Point executives shifted uncomfortably. Felix's confident smile vanished completely. You can't take your team, Parrish sputtered. That's poaching. It's unethical, but completely legal, I finished for him. Check our contracts. No non-compete clauses. You relocated us to a basement with leaking pipes while focusing resources on unproven methods. Rowan is offering us double our current salaries and proper working conditions. The board approved it yesterday, Rowan added, after reviewing your division's performance metrics against industry standards. Parrish's face cycled through shock, anger, and fear in rapid succession. The North Point executives began gathering their things, making excuses to leave. Wait! Parrish's voice cracked slightly. The East Wing renovation starts tomorrow. I'll match their salary offers. I looked at him with the same calm expression I'd worn since finding my team in the basement. Too late, I said simply. The executives from North Point filed out, followed by Rowan, who said he'd wait for me in the lobby. When only Parrish, Felix, and I remained in the room, Parrish turned on me. Do you have any idea what you've done? He hissed. I've secured my team's future, I replied. Something you failed to do. You've destroyed mine, he said, his voice breaking. You chose Felix over us, I said simply. Actions have consequences. As I turned to leave, Parrish grabbed my arm. Please, I made a mistake. I see that now. What will it take for you to stay? I looked at his hand until he released me. You know what's interesting about my military logistics work? I learned that true character reveals itself not when resources are abundant, but in how leaders treat their people when decisions get difficult. You showed us exactly who you are when you put us in that basement. I walked out, leaving Parrish standing there with his golden hire, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the empty conference room. What he didn't know was that my plan had been in motion long before the basement incident, and what he'd just witnessed was only phase 1. Back in the basement, my team waited anxiously. When I returned, their expressions ranged from hopeful to terrified. Well? Blake asked, unable to contain himself any longer. I closed the door behind me and surveyed the room. It's done. Rowan offered us all positions, double our current salaries, proper equipment, and a real office with windows. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Quyen let out a whoop that echoed off the concrete walls. Are you serious? Reese asked, his weathered face struggling between disbelief and hope. Completely, I confirmed. Contracts are being drawn up as we speak. We start next Monday. The celebration that followed was controlled but emotional. Handshakes exchanged, relieved laughter shared. These weren't just colleagues. They were soldiers who had followed me through impossible missions and shared victories. I knew you wouldn't leave us in this basement forever, Sage said, shaking my hand firmly. But how did you pull this off so quickly? I hesitated. It wasn't quick. I've been laying groundwork for months. Their faces registered confusion. Months? River asked. But the basement thing just happened 2 weeks ago. I sat on the edge of a folding table. The basement was just the final confirmation. I saw where things were heading the day Parrish arrived and started talking about fresh perspectives while ignoring our track record. So you've been planning our exit all this time? Avery asked. Not exactly an exit, I corrected. More like an insurance policy. I started documenting everything. Our contributions, Parrish's dismissals, project successes he took credit for. I reached out to old contacts, including Rowan, just to reconnect. When things started deteriorating, those connections became leverage. Sawyer, always the most perceptive despite his social awkwardness, studied my face. There's more to this than just finding us new jobs, isn't there? The others turned to me expectantly. Let's focus on the transition for now, I said carefully. We have 1 week to wrap things up properly. No loose ends, no unfinished projects. We leave with our professional reputations intact. What about Parrish? Blake asked, a dangerous edge to his voice. He knows we're all leaving, I confirmed. And he's panicking. The board was already questioning Felix's hiring and the resources allocated to him. Losing an entire specialized team in one stroke is going to raise serious concerns about Parrish's judgment. Good, Reese muttered. 32 years and he sticks me in a basement. What's our strategy for the next week? River asked, ever the pragmatist. We work professionally, thoroughly, and without complaint, I said. We document everything meticulously. We prepare transition guides for our replacements. We act with complete integrity. Why? Quyen asked, her directness cutting through the air. Why help them after how they treated us? Because this isn't about them, I explained. It's about us, about who we are. And because the best revenge isn't what you do to others. It's what you build for yourself. The team exchanged glances, not fully understanding my strategy but trusting me nonetheless. There's something else you should know, I added. Rowan isn't just offering us jobs. He's creating an entirely new division with us as the core team. We'll have complete autonomy to build something from the ground up. This revelation shifted the mood from cautious celebration to genuine excitement. Even Reese, who had been contemplating retirement before the basement incident, straightened with newfound energy. "What are we waiting for?" he asked. "Let's finish our work here so we can start our real work there." For the next 3 days, we operated with mechanical precision. Every line of code was commented, every process documented, every system mapped. We worked longer hours than necessary, our impending freedom fueling our productivity. On the 4th day, Parrish appeared in our basement looking haggard. Dark circles shadowed his eyes and his typically immaculate shirt was wrinkled. "Cole, can we talk privately?" he asked, his voice lacking its usual confidence. I glanced at my team, who pretended to be absorbed in their work while obviously listening. "Anything you need to say can be said here. We don't operate with secrets." He shifted uncomfortably. "I've spoken with the executive team. They've authorized me to offer your entire team a 15% raise, effective immediately. We're also expediting the renovation of the East Wing. You could be back upstairs by next week." I noticed he didn't mention what would happen to Felix. "That's generous," I said, "but we've already signed contracts with Rowan." "Contracts can be broken," he pressed. "I'm sure there are clauses." "There aren't," I interrupted. Rowan's legal team made sure of that. Parrish's professional veneer cracked completely. "Please, Cole. I admit I made a mistake with the basement situation, but this is going to destroy my career. The board meeting is on Friday, and if I have to announce that our entire engineering team resigned..." For a moment, I almost felt something resembling sympathy. "Almost. The basement wasn't a mistake, Parrish," I said, my voice level but firm. "It was a revelation. It showed us exactly how much you valued our contribution. You chose Felix's empty promises over our proven results. Now you live with that choice." He left without another word, shoulders slumped in defeat. The moment the door closed, my team exchanged knowing glances. "Did you see his face?" Avery marveled. 15%, Sawyer murmured. "That's substantially less than double." "It's not about the money," Blake said sharply. "It's about respect." I let them talk, turning back to my computer to hide my expression. What they didn't know, what I couldn't tell them yet, was that Parrish's desperation was exactly what I had been counting on. That evening, as we were preparing to leave, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Sinclair, the CEO. I stepped into the hallway to take the call. "Cole," she began without preamble. "I just heard the news from Parrish. Is it true your entire team has resigned?" "Yes," I confirmed. "We've accepted positions elsewhere." A long pause. "I'd like to meet with you tomorrow morning." "Just you, not your team." 9 a.m. in my office. "I'll be there," I agreed, then hung up. When I returned to the basement, 7 pairs of eyes locked onto me. "The CEO?" Blake guessed. "What did she want?" Quyen asked. "A meeting tomorrow morning," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "Are they going to try to stop us from leaving?" Quyen asked, worry creasing her forehead. "They can't," I assured her. "Our contracts are solid. This is probably just damage control." But as I said it, I knew it was much more than that. Sinclair wasn't the type to conduct damage control personally. Whatever she wanted would either validate my strategy or require immediate adaptation. The next morning, Sinclair's office occupied the corner of the top floor with glass walls offering a panoramic view of the city. She sat behind a minimalist desk, reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed documents. When I entered, she removed her glasses and gestured to the chair across from her. "Cole," she said, her tone unreadable. "I appreciate you coming." "Of course," I replied, taking the seat. She studied me for a moment. "I've been reviewing your team's contributions over the past 5 years. Impressive work. Consistently delivered, minimal resources required. Thank you, my team is exceptional." "Yes," she agreed, which makes me wonder why they're all leaving simultaneously. The basement relocation seems insufficient as sole motivation. I maintained steady eye contact. It wasn't just the basement. It was what the basement represented. Explain. When Parrish moved us downstairs to make room for Felix, he sent a clear message about our value to the company. The basement was just the physical manifestation of how he viewed our worth. Sinclair leaned back. "And you think I share this assessment?" "With respect," I said carefully, "you approved Felix's hiring and the resources allocated to him despite no proven track record. So yes, I assumed you endorsed Parrish's approach." To my surprise, she laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Parrish convinced the board, not me. I was outvoted. And now I get to say I told you so at tomorrow's meeting." Her expression sobered. "But losing your team is too high a price for being right." She slid a folder across the desk. "This is what I'm prepared to offer to keep your team here. Not under Parrish. Reporting directly to me." I opened the folder and scanned the document inside. The terms were exceptional, better even than Rowan's offer. Autonomy, resources, recognition, and compensation that reflected our true value. For the first time since this began, I felt my strategy required recalculation. Why now? I asked, closing the folder. Why not 6 months ago? Politics, she said simply. The board wanted to give Parrish a chance to implement his vision. I couldn't undermine him openly, but this situation changes the dynamic. You're using our resignation to consolidate power, I observed. She didn't deny it. Mutual benefit, Cole. You get what your team deserves. I get to restructure without internal warfare. I need to discuss this with my team, I said, taking the folder. Of course, but I need an answer by end of day. The board meets tomorrow. As I stood to leave, she added, there's something else you should know. Rowan and I have history. This isn't the first time he's recruited from us after strategic disagreements. The implication hung in the air. Was I being used as a pawn in some corporate chess game between Sinclair and Rowan? I returned to the basement, mind racing through possibilities. My team looked up expectantly. What happened? Blake asked. I held up the folder. Sinclair wants us to stay. New department reporting directly to her. Better terms than Rowan's offer. The stunned silence was broken by Reese. She's trying to save face. Maybe, I acknowledged. Or maybe she's sincere. Either way, we need to discuss this. What followed was the most strategic conversation we'd ever had as a team. Options were analyzed, risks assessed, leverage calculated. The basement's dim lighting seemed fitting for the tactical planning we were conducting. I don't trust them, River said firmly. They only value us now that we're leaving. But building something new here with real support, Avery countered, we wouldn't have to start over somewhere else. Kane looked conflicted. What about our commitment to Rowan? We signed contracts. With exit clauses, I reminded her. Legally, we could accept Sinclair's offer. Sawyer, who had been quiet throughout, finally spoke. This decision isn't about what's best for us professionally. It's about what we can execute successfully. All eyes turned to me. What do you think, Cole? You've led us this far. I took a breath, calculating the final moves. This was the moment that would determine not just our careers, but the culmination of the strategy I'd been crafting for months. I think, I said slowly, that we should split our approach. Their faces registered surprise. Not permanently, I clarified. Strategically, 4 of us accept Sinclair's offer. 3 go with Rowan as planned. We maintain connections, share intelligence, and ensure we're never vulnerable to any single employer again. The silence that followed was profound. Then Blake began to nod slowly. That's tactically brilliant, he said. We become our own network. Neither company can take us for granted again. The tension broke as the team began discussing logistics, who would go where, how we'd coordinate, the advantages of having inside perspectives at 2 major companies. As they planned, I stepped away to make 2 calls. The first to Sinclair, the second to Rowan. Both conversations were challenging, but by their conclusion, I had secured what we needed. When I returned, the team had reached consensus on who would stay and who would go. I've spoken to both Sinclair and Rowan, I announced. They've agreed to our split approach with one condition: regular collaboration between the 2 teams on select projects. They're actually excited about the possibility. And which group will you lead? Sage asked the question everyone was thinking. I smiled, neither exclusively. I'll be consulting for both teams, dividing my time, building bridges rather than choosing sides. The relief in the room was evident. We'd found a solution that honored everyone's interests while creating something entirely unprecedented. As we celebrated our unconventional victory, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Board meeting moved up to tomorrow 9 a.m. Parrish presenting restructuring plan. Felix featured prominently. Thought you should know. A friend. I stared at the message, my mind rapidly recalculating. This changed the timeline, but not the objective. Change of plans, I announced, interrupting the celebration. We need to prepare for tomorrow's board meeting. Why? Reese asked. We've made our decision. Because I said tomorrow isn't just about our future. It's about ensuring everyone understands exactly why we're leaving and what they're losing. As I outlined what we needed to do, I saw understanding dawn on their faces. This wasn't just about finding better positions or escaping a bad situation. This was about changing the system that had devalued us in the first place. By midnight, we had everything prepared. As we finally left the basement, possibly for the last time, Kane asked the question I'd been expecting. Cole, how long have you really been planning this? All of this? I looked at my team, my exceptional loyal team who had trusted me through basement offices and uncertain futures. They deserve the truth. Since the day Parrish introduced Felix as the future of the department, I admitted. But what's happening tomorrow? That part I've been planning since my first day in corporate life. What exactly is happening tomorrow? Blake pressed. Justice, I replied simply. And a demonstration of why you never underestimate the quiet professionals. The next morning arrived with pale light filtering through the basement's windows. I arrived before anyone else, dressed in the navy suit I reserved for the most critical operations. As my team arrived one by one, each looked prepared for what was essentially our final mission together as a complete unit. "Ready for today?" Blake asked, adjusting his tie. "More than ready," I replied, handing him a sealed envelope. "When the time comes, you'll know what to do with this." The others received similar envelopes, each containing specific intelligence and instructions. They secured them without questions, the ultimate demonstration of trust. At 8:30, we made our way to the executive floor. The boardroom doors remained closed, executives likely already inside conducting preliminary discussions. My team and I waited in the adjacent room, the calm before the storm. At precisely 8:55, Sinclair's assistant approached us. The CEO requests Engineering Team B join the meeting. My team exchanged confident glances as we gathered our materials and followed her into the boardroom. The long mahogany table was surrounded by board members in expensive suits, with Sinclair at the head. Parrish sat halfway down, papers spread before him, with Felix beside him looking notably subdued. Parrish's eyes widened when he saw us enter. He leaned over to whisper something to Felix, whose complexion went pale. "Thank you for joining us," Sinclair said, gesturing to empty chairs. "I've asked Cole and his team to provide context for the proposals we're discussing today." I noticed a familiar face among the board members. Rowan sat 3 seats down from Sinclair, offering me a slight nod. "Now, Parrish," Sinclair continued, "you were about to present your departmental restructuring plan." Parrish stood, straightening his tie nervously. "Yes. As you know, our department is undergoing significant transformation to align with market demands. The centerpiece of this transformation is our new productivity methodology pioneered by Felix, which promises to revolutionize our workflow." He clicked through several slides showing colorful charts with impressive upward trends. "Initial implementation has begun, and we project a 200% productivity increase by year-end." "Impressive," one board member commented. "And how is the existing engineering team adapting to these new methodologies?" Parrish hesitated, glancing at us. "There's been some resistance to change, as expected with any transformation, but we're addressing that through gradual implementation and appropriate resource allocation." "Resource allocation," Sinclair repeated. "Could you elaborate on that, Parrish?" He shifted uncomfortably. "We've had to prioritize certain workspace considerations to maximize efficiency. Some temporary relocation was necessary." "By temporary relocation, do you mean moving an entire specialized engineering team to the basement?" Sinclair asked, her voice deceptively mild. The board members stirred, several frowning as they looked between Parrish and our team. "It was an interim solution," Parrish insisted. "The renovation plans for proper workspace are already underway." "I see," Sinclair said. "And these renovations began after you learned the team was resigning, correct?" Parrish's face flushed. "The timing was—" "Cole," Sinclair interrupted, turning to me. "Perhaps you could give the board your perspective." I stood, feeling the weight of every gaze in the room. "Thank you, Sinclair. Before I begin, I want to clarify that what I'm about to share isn't about personal grievances. It's about systematic failures that threaten this company's competitive advantage." I turned to my team. "Now, please." They each opened their envelopes and distributed documents to every person at the table. Parrish received his copy last, his hand trembling slightly as he took it. "What you're looking at," I explained, "is a comprehensive analysis of our department's productivity over the past 5 years, alongside financial allocations and resource distribution. The final pages show projected outcomes based on current management decisions." The board members flipped through the meticulously prepared documents, their expressions growing increasingly concerned. "These numbers can't be right," one board member said, pointing to a particular section. "This shows a projected 30% decline in deliverables under the new structure." "The numbers are accurate," I confirmed. "They're based on the department's own data accessed through our project management systems. This indicates the team relocated to the basement was responsible for 78% of the department's successful deliverables last year," another board member noted, looking up sharply. "Parrish, were you aware of this?" Before Parrish could respond, I continued. "What you may find most interesting is page 12, the background verification my team conducted on Felix." Felix jumped to his feet. "That's private information. You had no right." "Every bit of information there is publicly available," I cut in calmly, "including court records from the wrongful termination lawsuit at your previous company and the class action settlement from the company before that." The room went silent as everyone turned to those pages. Felix slowly sank back into his chair. "You'll note," I continued, "that Felix's revolutionary methodology has been implemented at 3 companies. All 3 experienced initial enthusiasm followed by significant productivity declines. 2 of those companies no longer exist. The third laid off 40% of their workforce last quarter. Parrish's face had gone from red to ashen. I wasn't aware. No, you weren't, I agreed. Because you didn't conduct proper due diligence. You were so focused on finding a game changer that you ignored both warning signs and the consistent results your existing team delivered. I turned to address the entire board. This isn't just about my team being relocated to a basement. It's about a management philosophy that values presentation over performance, that chases quick wins at the expense of sustainable growth. It's about decision-making that ignores data in favor of charisma. The silence that followed was profound. Even Sinclair seemed impressed by the thoroughness of our presentation. Finally, the board chair spoke. Sinclair mentioned your team has received offers elsewhere. Given what you've shown us, I understand why. But I'm curious, why bring this to us now when you're already leaving? I smiled. Because I believe in this company despite recent management decisions, and because my team and I have developed an alternative structure that would benefit everyone. I nodded to Sage, who distributed a second set of documents. This proposal suggests splitting our team between continuing here and joining Rowan's company, with collaborative projects between the two. It provides stability during transition, maintains crucial institutional knowledge, and creates a partnership that could strengthen both companies. Rowan spoke up. I've reviewed this proposal thoroughly and fully support it. This arrangement would be unprecedented in our industry and potentially revolutionary. The board chair studied the proposal, then looked at Parrish. And where do you fit in this new structure? Before Parrish could respond, I answered, that's for the board to decide. Our proposal requires leadership that values substance over style, results over presentations. The board chair nodded slowly, then turned to Parrish. I think we need to continue this discussion privately. Cole, thank you for your candor and strategic thinking. Would you and your team give us the room? As we gathered our materials to leave, Parrish finally found his voice. This is a setup, he hissed. You've been planning this for months. I met his gaze steadily. No, Parrish. You set this up the moment you decided my team belonged in a basement. I simply ensured everyone understood the consequences of that decision. 3 hours later, my team and I sat in a restaurant celebrating with Rowan when my phone buzzed with a message from Sinclair. Parrish and Felix are gone. Board approved your proposal unanimously. When can you start as department director? I showed the message to my team, whose cheers drew curious glances from other diners. I quickly typed my response, Monday. Halftime as agreed, other half with Rowan's team. So that was your plan all along? Blake asked, his eyes wide with realization. Not just to leave, but to completely restructure both companies and take Parrish's position? Not exactly, I admitted. The original plan was to secure our team's future. But when I saw how fundamentally flawed the system was, I realized we had an opportunity to fix it, not just for us, but for everyone who might come after us. And splitting the team between companies? Reese asked. Insurance, I explained. No single employer will ever have complete leverage over us again. We'll always have options, always have allies. Kane raised her glass. To basements, then. Without them, none of this would have happened. We all laughed and clinked glasses. As conversation flowed around me, I thought about how sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies, it's building something better from the wreckage of their mistakes. 6 months later, our unprecedented arrangement had become a case study in industry publications. The collaborative model between formerly competing companies had increased innovation while reducing costs. Both companies' stock prices had risen significantly, and headhunters were constantly calling trying to understand our secret. As for Parrish and Felix, last I heard, Parrish was working at a much smaller company in a significantly reduced role, his reputation in the industry permanently damaged. Felix had reinvented himself as a workplace culture consultant, still chasing the next opportunity to sell empty promises to gullible executives. And my team? No longer in any basement, we occupied bright, modern offices in both companies. Our worth finally recognized not just in words, but in actions, budgets, and strategic decision-making authority. More importantly, we'd created a new model that valued substance over style, consistency over charisma, and respect over hierarchy. We'd proven that quiet professionals, when pushed too far, don't just fight back. We revolutionized the entire battlefield. I kept that bucket from the basement pipe leak on my new desk as a reminder. Not of where we'd been, but of what happens when you underestimate the people who actually get the work done. The most satisfying revenge isn't what you do to those who wronged you. It's creating a world where what they did becomes impossible for them to do to anyone else. The real victory? 3 junior engineers from other departments had approached me last week, saying they'd heard about our story and wanted to know if there were openings on either team. They were tired of being overlooked, while flashier colleagues got promoted. I smiled and told them what I'd learned. Never let anyone put you in a basement. And if they do, make sure you come back with blueprints for a better building. The revolution wasn't just about us anymore. It was about changing how the entire industry thought about talent, respect, and what real productivity actually looked like. And it all started with a leaking pipe and 7 engineers who refused to accept that a basement was where they belonged. If you enjoyed this story of workplace justice and strategic thinking, smash that like button and drop a comment letting me know what you think. Have you ever been undervalued at work or seen talent pushed aside for flashier but less capable people? I'd love to hear your experiences. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for more stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.